Before there was Rome, before the pyramids rose in Egypt, before even the written word, there was India, a land of mystery, of gods and emperors, of gold and blood, of silence and revolution. For over 10,000 years, this subcontinent has witnessed the rise of mighty civilizations and the fall of empires. It gave the world its numbers, its stories, and its soul. But its history is not just one story. It is millions of stories woven into one epic tapestry. This is the story of India, a civilization that refuses to fade. Chapter 1: Prehistoric India, 1700 to 2500 BCE. Long before empires, before temples or cities, there were families, farmers, hunters, people who lived close to the land and learned how to shape it. In a place called Meghar, one of the world's first farming villages emerged. This was around 7000 BCE, near the foothills of what is now Balochistan. These early settlers grew wheat and barley. They made pottery, raised animals, and buried their dead with care, showing signs of belief, tradition, and a world that already had meaning. These were the Proto-Dravidian cultures, ancestors of people who would later shape South Indian languages and identity. They didn't leave behind grand palaces or written texts, but they planted the seeds of civilization. Chapter 2: Indus Valley Civilization, circa 2600 to 1900 BCE. Then, something extraordinary happened. Out of the mud and dust rose a civilization ahead of its time. The Indus Valley Civilization, with its twin giants, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. They weren't just cities. They were marvels of design, precision, and quiet power. They built homes with private bathrooms, advanced drainage systems, and massive public structures. No kings, no obvious temples, no armies carved into stone. And yet, peace and order seemed to flow through their streets. They traded with distant lands, Mesopotamia, Persia. Their seals spoke in symbols, a language still undeciphered to this day. Who were they? What did they believe? Why did they vanish? Around 1900 BCE, the cities began to fall silent. Was it climate? Disease? A dying river? No one knows for sure. But what they left behind changed the course of Indian history forever. Chapter 3: Vedic Period and Aryan Migration, 1500 to 500 BCE. As the cities of the Indus faded into silence, new voices began to rise from the north. They came on chariots, through mountain passes, following the stars and the rivers. These were the Indo-Aryans, nomadic pastoralists who would reshape the soul of the subcontinent. They brought with them a sacred language, Sanskrit, and hymns, passed down by voice, not ink, became known as the Vedas. The Rig Veda, the oldest, sang of gods like Indra and Agni, of storms and fire, of battles, order, and sacrifice. Life was divided into priests, warriors, herders, and workers. It was the early echo of what would become the caste system. Tribal groups became kingdoms. These early states were called Janapadas, the seeds of future empires. Some lasted, others vanished. But from their fire, a civilization was being reborn. Chapter 4: Birth of Religions, 6th century BCE. As kingdoms rose, and rituals grew more complex, some began to question the old ways. In the 6th century BCE, two men would challenge the very fabric of society. One was Siddhartha Gautama, a prince who walked away from wealth to seek truth. After years of silence and suffering, beneath a tree in Bodh Gaya, he awakened. He became the Buddha, the Enlightened One. He taught that life is suffering, but also that suffering can end. Not through sacrifice, not through wealth, but through mindfulness, compassion, and letting go. Around the same time, Mahavira preached a path of nonviolence, truth, and total self-control. His teachings formed the core of Jainism, a faith that values every living soul, no matter how small. These were revolutions of the spirit, movements that rejected violence, rejected hierarchy, and offered liberation not just to priests and kings, but to anyone willing to seek it. Chapter 5: The Maurya Empire and Ashoka the Great, 322 to 185 BCE. India was no longer a land of scattered kingdoms. It was about to become an empire. In 322 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya, a bold warrior guided by the genius of Kautilya, rose to power. He overthrew the last Nanda ruler and built the Maurya Empire, stretching from Afghanistan to Bengal. Under his rule, India saw centralized governance for the first time. A single law, a standing army, a new order. But it was his grandson, Ashoka, who would change history forever. After one of the bloodiest battles in Indian history, Ashoka stood among the dead, and something in him broke. He renounced violence and turned to Buddhism, vowing to rule not by fear, but by Dhamma, peace, tolerance, and compassion. He built roads, hospitals, and schools, sent envoys to faraway lands, and made the Maurya Empire not just the most powerful, but the most enlightened of its time. Chapter 6. The Gupta Empire, India's Golden Age, 320 to 550 CE. After centuries of war and transition, a new dynasty rose, not through conquest alone, but through culture, science, and beauty. This was the age of the Guptas, and it would be remembered as India's Golden Age. Under rulers like Chandragupta I, Samudragupta, and Chandragupta II, India became a beacon of knowledge. The concept of zero was refined. Decimal numbers, planetary orbits, medical texts, surgery manuals, all written centuries before the West would catch up. In art and architecture, the Guptas left masterpieces. Ajanta's cave paintings still whisper their colors through time. And poetry, like that of Kalidasa, sang of love, longing, and the gods. Trade thrived. Religion flourished. Hinduism evolved alongside Buddhism and Jainism, and India became a center of global influence. It would not last forever, but for over 2 centuries, India shined brighter than ever before. Chapter 7. Islamic invasions and the Delhi Sultanate, 1000 to 1526 CE. From the north, a new force was gathering. Fierce, fast, and unfamiliar. They came not to trade, but to conquer. Beginning in the 11th century, waves of Turkic and Afghan invaders crossed into the Indian subcontinent. Mahmud of Ghazni came first, seeking wealth. Then Muhammad Ghori, seeking rule. With Ghori's victory, the heart of India shifted. And in 1206, the Delhi Sultanate was born. 5 dynasties would rise and fall over the next 3 centuries. Slave dynasty, Khilji, Tughlaq, Sayyid, Lodi, each brought war, but also innovation. New languages took root. New art bloomed, blending Persian, Turkish, and Indian traditions. Urdu was born. So was a new architectural style that would shape India's skyline for centuries. It was a time of both beauty and blood. A time when India was being reshaped by swords and scriptures alike. But as the 16th century dawned, the winds of change were blowing again. A new power was coming, one that would cast a long shadow across Indian history. Chapter 8. The Mughal Empire, 1526 to 1857. In 1526, at the Battle of Panipat, a new empire was born in blood and fire. Baber, a descendant of Genghis Khan and Tamerlane, defeated the last Sultan of Delhi and founded the Mughal Empire. The Mughals brought with them not just armies, but poetry, gardens, architecture, order, and a vision of kingship unlike anything India had seen. At its heart stood Akbar, the philosopher king. He married Hindu princesses, abolished the jizya tax, and dreamed of a united empire where faiths could coexist. Under Akbar, the empire expanded, by sword, yes, but also by diplomacy. India's diversity became its strength. Akbar's son, Jahangir, fostered art and elegance, and his grandson, Shah Jahan, built a monument to eternal love. The Taj Mahal, white marble glowing in moonlight, a symbol of beauty, born from grief. But then came Aurangzeb, the strictest of emperors. He expanded the empire to its greatest size, but at a terrible cost. Heavy taxes, religious repression, revolts from Marathas, Sikhs, and Rajputs would tear the empire apart. By the 1700s, the Mughal glory had begun to fade. And in the shadows, a new power watched and waited: the British. In 1857, after a massive rebellion failed, the last Mughal emperor was exiled, and the British crown claimed India for itself. The age of emperors had ended, but their legacy still stands in stone, silk, and memory. Chapter 9: British Rule in India, 1858 to 1947. The sun had set on the Mughals, and in their place rose a foreign empire, the British Raj. After the failed revolt of 1857, the British Crown took direct control of India. What followed was nearly a century of colonial rule, a rule built on trade, bureaucracy, and exploitation. The British introduced railways, telegraphs, and modern education, but they also drained India's wealth, imposed racial hierarchies, and divided communities. But resistance was growing. Mahatma Gandhi returned, not with weapons, but with truth and nonviolence. Civil disobedience, boycotts, hunger strikes. A revolution of the soul had begun. Others took different paths, with fire, with fists, and with dreams of a free India. As World War II raged, Britain grew weak, and India grew restless. Finally, in 1947, after years of struggle, India awoke to freedom. But independence came with a price: partition, millions displaced, countless lives lost. Gandhi would not live to see the new India thrive, but the seed of liberty he planted had taken root. The empire was gone, but India had found her voice. Chapter 10: Modern India, Republic, Growth and Challenges, 1947-present. India was finally free, but freedom was just the beginning. A nation torn by partition, poverty, and wounds now faced the challenge of healing and rebuilding. In 1950, India became a republic, guided by the largest written constitution in the world, a vision of democracy, equality, and secularism. Millions who had never voted before now had a voice. A bold experiment in democracy had begun. The young republic raced to modernize. Dams, steel, science, the engines of progress. But challenges loomed large: poverty, illiteracy, caste violence, and the ghosts of communal divide. India would be tested by war, famine, and political strife. Democracy itself was suspended, but the people brought it back. India rose in science, sports, and culture. From field to space, from labs to movie screens, the world began to take notice. In 1991, a bold move changed everything. The economy opened, globalization arrived, and 1 billion dreams found new fuel. A new India emerged, urban, connected, ambitious. Yet old wounds remained: religious violence, social inequality, environmental strain. But India continued to rise, to reach, to believe. Voice softens and slows, reflective but proud. India is no longer a colony. It is a civilization, reborn, ancient, modern, imperfect, and unstoppable. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through modern India's past, present, and future. From the struggles of independence to the vibrant, diverse nation it is today, India's story is one of resilience, innovation, and hope. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history and culture. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let us know your thoughts and what topics you'd like to explore next in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.